Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Sunday. It is match day. It is match day at the Emirates for one last time this season. Arsenal versus Newcastle kicking off in just a few hours' time. I will be heading up there very, very soon. As you can see, I'm not in the press box today. I'm in the stands. Looking forward to this one. As I said, meeting up with people for the last time. A few beers before the game. A few beers probably after the game as well before we all say goodbye to the Emirates for a few months. Anyway, and I think, to be honest, I think we're already going to be relatively happy to do that after the season that we've had. But there is still a big job to do today, isn't there? No doubt about it. Arsenal need to win today. If they win today, pretty much everything's done and dusted. Second's done and dusted. Champions League's done and dusted. You can go to Southampton, put your feet up, do whatever you want. Doesn't really matter next week. So just get the job done today. If not, Newcastle move ahead of Arsenal. If Newcastle win today, really don't want that to happen. Ultimately, it will count for very, very little in the grand scheme of things. But you don't want, if you can't finish first, as Mikel Arteta says, finish second. That is a job at hand. Arsenal have plenty of opportunities to close out second spot this season. They haven't been able to take them. Today is probably the last chance because get this wrong, you're not going to do it. So have to get the job done today. We'll talk about that in today's show. We'll do predicted 11. Look what Arteta's had to say about Newcastle and about plenty of other things as well. Got some comments and questions from you. Got really interesting stuff from Mikel Arteta in his interview of Sky before today where he really talks about transfers and summer. Very, very sort of forthright stuff from Mikel Arteta on how important transfers are this summer as openers. I've seen him really for a while when he talks about transfers ahead of a transfer window. So we'll look at that and plenty of other bits and pieces as well. Just wanted to start up talking about Mikel Arteta. This was brilliant last night. It was the big Arseblog, Arsenal Vision sort of joint event at the Union Chapel that they do before the final home game of the season. And a couple of years ago, Dad Wright, he came on as a surprise guest. Not sure they're going to be able to top this one. Who knows? Maybe Dennis Bergkamp or Thierry Henry. But Mikel Arteta rocks up on the stage. It's brilliant recognition for Andrew, for Elliot, for the whole team, James, Tim, Clive, just Tim. It's just a brilliant recognition for them, the work they do for the Arsenal community in terms of the content they provide us all with and have done for years, which is just top of the tree, but also the amazing work they do raising money for the Arsenal Foundation, everything like that. To get the recognition of the manager coming out, thanking them for that, speaking to the fans as well, it was brilliant to see. So if you haven't seen him, by the way, Tom Canton, I have nicked your photo. Apologies for that. I just wanted to put a picture up on the screen. So this is Tom credit Tom Canton for the picture. I just wanted to flag that up because I just thought it was brilliant for Andrew and for Elliot. I did WhatsApp Andrew saying, how on earth do you top that? And he did reply literally about 2 minutes ago saying, got to be Thierry. Let's see if you can manage and pull that one off, Andrew. I wouldn't put it past you, I have to say. So congratulations to everyone at Arseblog and Arsenal Vision for this. I think it's brilliant recognition for the work they do. And if you haven't seen the videos, go on social media. They're all over there. Little speech from Arteta as well. And the atmosphere there sounded absolutely brilliant. So great to see that. Okay, let's move on to Arteta, shall we? And this interview I was talking to you about that he's done with Sky Sports ahead of today's game. He talks at length about the season. He talks about how he envisaged this final day at home to be the day that Arsenal got to lift the trophy in front of their fans, and how at the start of the season this was in his head. It's what he was envisaging. It just never obviously paid off like that and worked out. And he was asked why that is, and he said injuries, red cards, he said all that sort of stuff have played into it. And so then he was asking, how do you improve next season? He says one number is availability. Without that one, you have no chance to win anything. There are some other statistics that are very, very relevant to winning football matches, not just to dominate them, but to win them. But we are very clear on what brings success to us and what we have to do, and then work on them, be more efficient, be better. The other one is the capacity to change games every 3 days and during the match. That's where we have a big margin. I thought that was interesting there. It says the other capacity that you need is to be able to change games every 3 days and during the match. That's where we have a big margin. So clearly he's talking about the strength of the squad there and not being able to turn to his bench and be able to change things or rotate every 3 days, play 6 players in one game, 6 players in another game, if you see what I mean. Just change that big sort of core group of players to be able to do that and be able to believe that the squad is strong enough to be able to handle that amount of change. And he says that's where we have a big margin. Clearly he's pointing to sort of Liverpool there. I can't think he's talking about really anyone else, maybe Manchester City as well. When you look at your bench and Arsenal's bench, you don't have to be a genius to look at Arsenal's bench in the last 6 months of the season and not see where the massive, massive problem is to the squad and the strength of depth. We've all known it. He knows it. He's not stupid. So he knows it. And so I thought that was really, really interesting ahead of the summer. And he talks more about this He was asked about the summer signings, sort of following on from that quote. Is that what you need then? And he said, we need that for sure. With the numbers that we started this season and the numbers to provide for next season, with the demands we're going to have, especially with the players we have who are coming through long-term surgeries, it's very unrealistic to deliver trophies with that. We know that. We have to address that. And we're going to do everything we can to improve it, especially because we're going to lose quite a lot of players. There are players out of contract. There are players here who've come out on loan. So the squad really becomes thin on top of the injuries that we have. We know we have that duty, that necessity, and we have players in the academy that can help. Great. But if not, we know what we have to do. It's going to be a very exciting summer. First of all, reviewing what we have, finding ways to increase the levels of the team, finding big margins where we can still develop our game and our players, then putting those plans together during pre-season. And if we don't have enough from that, then it's all about what we need to recruit to make the difference. Just thought for Arteta, who's usually very, very quiet, I know he did towards the end of those quotes fall back to his kind of stock answer of, first things first, we've got to develop what we have, improve the players that we have, which he always talks about when he's asked about transfers. But even though he sort of fell back into that during those answers, I thought he was very, very open when he's talking about, when he talks to, it's an absolute sort of vow to the fans, really, what he's saying here. He says, we know we have that duty, that necessity, when he's talking about signing players this summer. Again, it just, I go back to January and always say, you're always defending Arteta and all that sort of stuff. I'm not defending Arteta. Look, I have no relationship with Arteta. I just want the best manager to be at Arsenal. And at the moment, I still kind of feel like that's him. But just going back to January, the criticism that he got that he wasn't the guy who signed players, he was literally out in front of us every single day demanding players. He couldn't have been more crystal clear over the need for players in January. The club didn't deliver the players that he wanted. He would have taken Ollie Watkins. He wanted Ollie Watkins. He wouldn't have cared how much Arsenal paid for him. It was the club that made the decision not to go to the price that Villa wanted. I'm not necessarily sure that was the wrong decision, considering the price that Villa did want for Ollie Watkins. But Arteta would have just been happy to have him, whatever the price. I'm absolutely sure of that. And he knows how important this summer is. Absolutely, how incredibly important this summer is, because this squad, like he says, is so small now. They're going to be losing players. The loan players are going. Not that they've really been any use anyway. But the squad's just going to get even smaller, and of course, then you're without Jesus, you're without Tomiyasu, all those sort of players till went into next season at best. So it's just a massive summer, no doubt about it. And I just thought it was really interesting stuff from Arteta, very forthright, very, he was very adamant in what Arsenal need, and more so than I think he usually is when it comes to those type of interviews and those type of questions about transfers. Right, moving on to today's game. All smiles in training yesterday. Interesting one in the middle there. If you're watching on YouTube, that picture, Thomas Partey, Kieran Tierney, could well be the last time we see them in action for Arsenal at the Emirates. Anyway, this weekend, obviously, both out of contract in the summer. Jorginho as well in the same position as those. Will we see Ethan Nwaneri today? Kai Havertz, we're going to see his return. I imagine we probably will. The new bulked-up Kai Havertz, according to Mikel Arteta, of course. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what sort of team Arsenal put out and how Mikel uses that squad. On the sort of season that we've had, Mikel said it's been a phenomenal effort from all of them, understanding the circumstances. It's our last home game. It's always a very special occasion, our chance to wrap up Champions League, to put ourselves in a really strong position for second place, and in a way to say thank you to all our supporters who've been for the amazing season. They've been on every journey, every ground, making the effort to travel with us everywhere at home as well. I think it's one of the best days of the season when you can just say thank you to them and they can say what they feel about us as a team. See, this is going to be interesting. The last two home games of the season have been really emotional ones. Obviously, having just missed out on the title, and the stadium's been absolutely packed an hour after full time. You think back to Everton last season, especially. I was just talking about this with my Patreon members on the Discord before I recorded this, and you just think how emotional that day was and how packed it was, and the season before as well, to be honest, and the speeches Arteta gave on a microphone and everything like that. I think, today has got it could be very, very different, result depending as well. Even if Arsenal win, I think it's going to be different. It's not going to be an emotional day, is it? For one, it's not going to be like it was the last couple of times. But if they lose, if the result goes against Arsenal, there's a very real possibility the stadium will be pretty empty when they're doing that lap of appreciation, whatever it is that it's called now, which is understandable. Look, fans have every right to stay or go. I'll stay. I'll certainly applaud the team. I always have done. I've never been one to kind of leave early for those sort of things. But everyone's got their own right to do what they want, and it will just be interesting to see the sort of reaction from Arteta, really, from the players as well, because they've been so used to this team and the supporters being with them every step of the way. And this has been such a difficult season for supporters to really get. Just to be able to stick with everything that's gone on. It's just been a grind from the first couple of games. Everything just feels like it's been hard work. And everyone's tired emotionally, mentally, physically. Everyone's tired, I think. And so there is a real chance that it's going to be pretty empty in there today at full time. And it'll be interesting to see the reaction and stuff from the players to that. When asked if the players have one more big performance in them, he said they do, but not one. We need two. And we're going to start with this one today. We're going to need a big one and be very clinical, because we know the qualities of Newcastle. We know the results that they've had we've had against them, and how thin the margins are with them, and especially how clinical we have to be in front of goal to score the goals. Certainly have to be more clinical than we were in the first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final against Newcastle. On the importance to finish runner-up, Mikel says you always have to be as good as you possibly can. The dream of winning the Premier League this season is gone. So as we said, be the best of the rest. Feel that pain to be better. On why Newcastle are a bogey team, he said they are a very difficult team for any opposition. I think what Eddie and the staff as a club have done over the last few years is remarkable. They've been very consistent, very difficult to play against, like we've been. On what makes them difficult, he says they dominate almost every aspect. They are great when they attack a low block, and they have a lot of presence in the box. If they need to run set pieces, run transitions, defend a low block, or if the game has to get physical, they are ready to do that. The way they compete, they are smart. They try to take advantage of a lot of things, like any good team. You have to dominate a lot of things, even if you're not on top of the table in this league. And they're a very good team, Newcastle. And obviously they've got Arsenal's number. They know how to play against Arsenal. They know how to frustrate Arsenal. They know how to get under Arsenal's skin. Arsenal just got to find a way to deal with that today. They haven't been able to deal with it so far this season, but they've got to find a way to deal with that today if they want to make sure they do finish second and do finish above Newcastle. Because Newcastle will come out flying today. I'm pretty sure. They'll really fancy their chances. Why wouldn't you? If you've beaten a team three times already this season, you will arrive today absolutely licking your lips at the prospect of beating them again. So Arsenal are going to have to deal with a very confident Newcastle team today, and they're going to have to find a way to handle them an awful lot better than they have done. They've got to be clinical for a start. Arteta says it. I mean, we all remember the Carabao Cup semi-final, the game at the Emirates anyway, and the misses that Arsenal had on that day, which allowed Newcastle to get the 2-0 win, because at the other end, they were clinical. And that's going to be absolutely crucial. Just can't afford to miss chances today in a game like this. And if you get yourselves in front, go on and make it 2-0. Don't just stay at 1-0, because we all know how that's gone at the Emirates in recent weeks. And as I mentioned earlier, obviously, could well be the last time we see a few players today. Still not sure, obviously, what's happening with Thomas Partey. Out of everyone, he's the one who's most likely to stay. Obviously, talks ongoing to see if both sides can come to an agreement over contract length and contract and wages, all that sort of stuff. I think we'll have to wait and see after the season's finished before we get a definite answer on that. Jorginho definitely going to go. Kieran Tierney definitely going to go. So there's going to be some goodbyes. Mikel was asked about it. He said, I wouldn't like to talk specifically about anybody. He was asked about Thomas Partey specifically for this question. He says there are a few cases, and we will try and show our gratitude, how much we love them, how much we appreciate the time we've been together, and hopefully our supporters can do the same with them. It'd be nice to see. Obviously, we're going to see Thomas Partey play, no doubt about it, but it'd be very nice to see Jorginho and Kieran Tierney get some minutes, especially Kieran Tierney. I think I've loved Jorginho at Arsenal. I think he's been a fantastic signing for the team. But Kieran Tierney was right at the start of the change of Arteta and the upward trajectory of Arsenal, and he played such a massive part in those early years of it as well, when there were some fairly average players still at the team and at the club, and we weren't doing very good. Tierney was that kind of beacon of light that we all attached ourselves to, and it was just a bit of a joy to watch, really, the way he played the game, the no-nonsense attitude, the old-school type fashion that he played football in, and we all loved him for that. So it'd be great to give him a proper send-off today. It really, really would. Right, this is my predicted 11. This is what I've gone for. This is what I think Arteta's going to go for. I think he's going to go right wire. Sorry, I'll start that again. Raya, White, Saliba, Kivior, Lewis, Skelly, Partey, Odegaard, Rice, Saka, Martinelli, Trossard. So I think he will play Trossard and Rice, both obviously in training this week, despite Rice missing the game against Liverpool and Trossard limping off in the game against Liverpool last weekend, I think they'll both start this game. So I don't think Timbrell starts. I think he'll play White at right back. So we'll see that right-hand side of Saka, Odegaard and White, which we don't get to see very much anymore. So Raya in goal, White, Saliba, Kivior, Lewis Skelly, Partey, Odegaard, Rice, Saka, Martinelli and Trossard. That is my predicted 11 for today's game. Not going to say too much on this, but congratulations to Manchester City. Not Manchester City. God, I'm having a nightmare this morning. It's too early. Congratulations to Crystal Palace for beating Manchester City in the FA Cup final. What a wonderful moment that was. And I've watched so many videos. It's what football's all about. Just watch the videos, if you haven't seen it yet, of this sheer emotion of the Crystal Palace fans at Wembley yesterday when that full-time whistle goes, when they've seen their team finally win a major trophy. And they absolutely deserved it as well. They were fantastic. Eze, obviously the match winner. I don't need to say too much more about Eze. I've said it before. Just bring him. I just want him. I just think he's a fabulous player. It wasn't just his goal yesterday. It was his all-round performance. You watch those last sort of 10, 15 minutes when he got on the ball and City was sort of piling on the pressure or piling on the territory for pressure anyway. Didn't have too many chances. But look how clever Eze was whenever he got on the ball and how he drew fouls and how confident he was in possession. I just think he's a fabulous footballer. I really, really do. I want him at Arsenal an awful, awful lot. So brilliant to see. Fantastic to see Palace get a trophy. Wonderful for the fans, who I think are fantastic fans, by the way, as well. So I just thought that was really, really special yesterday at Wembley. Congratulations to the Eagles. And you guys are replying, sending in. This is not the only two comments. Charlie says, go and get Eze. Abe says, I wrote last time here, Arsenal have to sign Eze. He is the real deal, can play in place of Martinelli and can also play in place of Odegaard. When he's not in form again, that's why, it solves two problems for me. Can play as a left winger, can play centrally, creative, scores goals, works hard, clever football brain, just all-round package, in my view, Eze. And I think he's right at that sort of moment where he's going to go from being brilliant, which he is now, to next level. I think this is a time he's going to go. I'm sure someone's going to sign him this summer. I know Palace are in Europe now, but I still think someone gets him this summer. I just really want that to be Arsenal. A few more comments and questions now from you guys before we wrap this one up. Gareth and Mark have got in touch on the Discord for Patreon members. If you haven't signed up to Patreon yet and you want to join the Discord, get onto the chat that we're all a part of, you can sign up down below to become a member. The link is in the description of this YouTube video. Gareth, it's on my social media channels as well. Gareth says, Charles, your thoughts on the Kivior situation? He's been really good since Gabby hurt himself, but still won't be a starting choice next summer. Do you think that it will be time do you not think that it will be him pushing for a move this summer? He could easily find himself a starting role at a good club playing European football. Might even be worth a few quid, but presumably we would need another centre-back. If only this squad building malarkey was as easy as some make out. And then Mark says, picking up on your thoughts about centre-backs, do we really need another centre-back when we have Kivior, Calafiori, White, Timber, and even Tommy when he's fit again? If Kivior is sold, then we will need to do something, but not sure we need more than two cover players for those positions. And then he said, additionally, do you know of any youngsters who might break through in centre-back positions as another option? I don't know, not at this precise moment. My thoughts on the Kivior situation is basically it's up to him. I think if he really pushes for a move this summer, and I think there is going to be interest, well, there is interest in Kivior, no doubt about it, from clubs in Italy. That if he goes to Arsenal and says, I think it is best that I move on this summer, I need to play more, I think Arsenal will not stand in his way. But I think they would absolutely have to sign a centre-back. I think that it's going to be a tough decision because it makes sense to keep him because then you don't have to go out and sign a centre-back. You can focus on everything else you have to do in the window. But I also look at it and think if Arsenal were ever going to get, good money for Kivior, it's this summer. Because he's played loads in the build-up to the summer. He's played well in the Premier League, in the Champions League. He's raised his profile far higher than it had been. If Arsenal were trying to sell him in January, for example, before the injury to Gabby, it would have been a real struggle to make any sort of money on Kivior, who they spent quite a bit on to bring him to the club, by the way. But now, because he's played a lot of football recently, he's put himself in the market. He's put himself in this sort of vision of everyone. It's kind of similar to Eddie Nketiah and Smith Rowe. I kind of felt like the time to sell them was last summer. Because of the money. And the same with Balogun, those sort of people. You've got to pick the right time to sell players. And I think if you are going to sell Kivior, this is the right time to do it because his value is never going to be higher. Because if Gabriel comes back or when he comes back, he's going to play next season. Kivior's minutes are going to reduce and his value is going to reduce as a result. So I think probably sell, to be honest, but only if there's someone in your mind who you really, really want and you know you can get, because I don't want to be scrambling around for another centre-back come the end of the season. Expats everywhere says, hi, Charles, a hypothetical question here. I'd love your take on, let's say that Isak at 150 million is realistic. Would you rather Isak at 150 million or Gyökeres and Sesko for 140 million? I would rather Isak for 150 million, which I know sounds a bit stupid because it's one player rather than two very good players, but I just think Isak is as much as a guarantee as you could possibly get to a title and to us being a success, barring any injuries. And as good as Gyökeres and Sesko appear to be, I just don't think it's never a guarantee, but I just think it is with Isak. So I would choose Isak for 150 million, I have to say. Line on the dial says, people freaking out that Arteta's positive comments about Havertz mean they won't sign a striker. Can't we just take it as face value as deserved praise for a player working incredibly hard to come back stronger? Honestly, I was going to say it blows my mind, but it really doesn't. But I've been stunned at the reaction to those quotes from Arteta about Havertz, how everyone, it's just been a pile on social media. Like a lot of the aggregators picked up on it and sort of atted me into the stuff that they were aggregating on social media, on X. And so many of the replies to it were people saying, oh, here we go. This is Arteta. We're never going to sign a striker. This is him saying that Havertz is the guy. We're not going to sign a striker. It's so obvious. This club is dead, man. Fire Arteta. Fire everyone. It's just like, it blows my mind. It's like, are you that mad that you really, really think that Arsenal aren't going to sign a striker this summer? That Arteta doesn't want to sign a striker just because he bigged up Kai Havertz means that he's not going to sign a striker this summer. It's crazy to me how people go down that train of thought. I just don't understand it. Of course, he wants a striker. He knows it. He couldn't make it more obvious. And bigging up one of his players who have just come back from a serious injury to make him feel good before coming back into the team is not going to change that. Just mad. It really is mad. Stephen's got in touch about Gyökeres. Says we all know he's the true definition of an accomplished finisher. He is what we need today. Sesko, on the other hand, is not there yet, but he has a higher ceiling. And you then talk about signing both players. But the thing with signing both players here is that it's just not going to happen. Sesko didn't sign for Arsenal last summer. One of the big reasons Sesko didn't sign for Arsenal last summer, I've mentioned this before, is that he wasn't sure he'd be ahead of Havertz in the pecking order. And so he's not going to come in the same summer that you also sign another out-and-out number 9 in Gyökeres. It's just not going to happen. You know, it sounds nice to say, but there's just no way you're going to sign those two players in the same window. It's just not, because the two players won't want to do it for a start, especially when you've already got Havertz at the club, who's going to be a contender for the 9 spot as well. So no, it'll be one or the other. Gyökeres obviously winning the league for Sporting yesterday. Brilliant goal, by the way, to win it. I mean, he was his second goal. They won 2-0. He was his second goal. It was a fantastic goal. Brilliant touch. Everyone always talks about his bad touch and stuff like that. Well, it was a brilliant touch for the goal. Really good strength, technique, quality goal for him. As Sporting won the league. He was asked afterwards about his future, and he did the classic answer of, who knows? It's impossible to predict. We don't know what's going to happen this summer. And then talked about the cup final and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens on that. But that's it from me today, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're going to the game later, enjoy it. Like I said, no live updates from me. I'm not in the press box today. I'm in the stands. But I'll be back in the morning to hopefully review a nice Arsenal win on the final day of the home season. Anyway, have a good one, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.